Good morning. I'm delighted to introduce you to our first presentation of the day, which is Greg Turner. Greg is the principal for high performance venue consulting based over in China for the last couple of years. Greg's going to discuss Asia and finding the next opportunity in or from China. And then hopefully we'll have time for a few questions at the end, which you can submit via the Q&A tab at the top right of the screen. So thank you very much. Greg, if you'd like to begin.
Sure. So I'll quickly start with a bit of a presentation that kind of goes through China's ticketing market and how it's set up, gives a couple of case studies on a few companies, the history, and then talk a little bit about how government is influencing the development of the market. But before I get started, I just want to say thanks to Ian and Angelina and Lizzie and Richard and the whole team for getting this together. I know that they were really hoping to get us all together in a room, but 2020 is obviously not going to allow that. So hopefully we'll all be able to get together next year and share some drinks after the show. All right, so Ian and I shared a couple ideas on the presentation topic and the content, and I didn't actually see the title until he published it inside of the program, and I saw those the first two words, scale and chaos. And they were quite, at first I was like, what? Why did he do that? And then I thought about it for a minute, and I can't actually imagine two better words to describe China's ticketing market. It probably goes across most of China, but especially the ticketing market seems quite apt for the way things have been developing recently. If we're taking a look at the, if we're taking a look at the whole industry here and how it's kind of developed, there's three general groups. The first one is obviously what's the primary market. That's dominated by Damai. If you know the market at all, I'm sure that you're familiar with the company. They own 80% of the market for live events, but there's a number of other companies involved with that as well. Most of them have been around for quite a while, setting up in the early 2000s as originally offline, and then moving directly basically to mobile once e-commerce started setting up in China. They skipped over desktop pretty much. The second one is what's better translated as ticket trading. It's essentially the secondary market, but the secondary market here, I think, operates a little bit differently than what a StubHub or a Viagogo does in the West. In that these companies, they generally have they have a relationship with the primary sellers and the venues and the promoters and the artists, where they're all in some way working together to support the sales of tickets. Most of these companies got set up in the middle of the last decade, 2015 or so. So they're all quite fresh and they're all still trying to find their feet. There's been a lot of private investment come into it. I'm talking tens of millions of US dollars into it. And so it's a bit of a feeding frenzy right now, trying to get themselves established. And then the third group is what I would call the lifestyle platform, which is more about the e-commerce or the travel agencies or even the food delivery companies, where basically they have this platform where they're already selling. And then their idea is, well, why don't we just throw some tickets on it as well? And if we sell 5, well, that's 5 more. That's a little bit more revenue that we wouldn't have had otherwise. And I think that's kind of representative of the whole industry, where everybody's willing to give ticketing a try, and it's not really as structured and as formal as what you'd find in the more developed Western nations. So I'm going to do a couple quick case studies here. The first one is going to be on Damai. If you know the company at all, it was established in 2005, I think. And then in 2017, it was purchased by Alibaba. And within Alibaba, it's part of what's called the Alibaba Live Entertainment Group, which together with another company called MyLive, which focuses on content creation and cultivation, development, and management. And then on the other side, it's MySeat or MyZuo, which is a smart venue management platform. It kind of together creates something similar to AEG or Live Nation. They're still getting their feet under them. They were only purchased in 2017. They're still trying to structure. But what really makes it interesting is along with the Alibaba Live Entertainment Group, it has access to everything else through the whole Alibaba ecosystem. On the one side, there's a lot of content that Alibaba owns, creates, develops, invests into. On the other side, there's a whole e-commerce platform. So in some ways, it's kind of like Amazon sets up a ticketing agency or sets up a live event agency. But I think because of Alibaba's real dominance in the market, even saying that it's like Amazon sets it up doesn't really do service to what Damai and the Live Entertainment Group may turn into in the coming years. I think Alibaba's sponsorship of the Olympics is a big part of the reason, or a big motivator to make this whole group come to life. So we'll see probably some big changes in the next 4 years or so. The second one I want to take a look at is a company called More Tickets, or Mutianlun. They're, like I said, they're in the secondary market. And they're basically something like a Groupon for the ticketing market, where they focus on group sales and they focus on big discounts to sell tickets. But the way they work is they actually get the tickets directly from the primary sellers or from the venues or from the promoters in terms of excess capacity that they can't sell, that the others can't sell directly. And then these guys then take it, bundle it together, have a very dynamic pricing model that as more people sign up for it, the price drops quite quickly. And it's grown quite fast. It was set up in 2015. It by itself has probably about $30 million US investment into it. And some of that has also then been used to develop some high-tech features for the platform. Say, for example, they have the first platform in China that could offer VR or AR ticket selection, where through your mobile phone you would be able to see specifically, walk through the venue, see specifically where your seat is, how it is relative to the stage, to the washrooms, to the concessions, all that kind of stuff that maybe takes it to a different level than just simply a map or even just some more rudimentary types of examples. So they're really kind of shaking it up quite a bit, but they're doing it in a way that has a close partnership with like I said, the primary sellers, the venues, and the promoters. That's just two quick ones. I want to take a quick look on how it's developed, how the market's developed. You can see here, this is a quick, a small little timeline where your primary sellers all set up in the first decade of the 2000s of this century, starting with Yonghe and Damai and AC Orange. And then your secondary sellers started coming online in the second half of this year, especially in 2000, or this decade, especially in 2015. Where you had a whole lot of investment suddenly step up and say, we want to get involved in the ticketing market. So how is that actually translated into growth within the market? Ticketing, live events, has all that investment started showing results? What I've got here is a comparison between cinema box office and live events, where you can see the cinema box office through the past 5-6 years has really taken off. In 2015, they had over 50% annual growth, whereas the live event market, which is the lighter shade boxes on the axis, hasn't really grown very much. It's been pretty steadily, slightly growing at a rate that doesn't really make it. In China, that's a dead industry. But it's not slowing down the investment. It's not slowing down it's not slowing down the private investment, Alibaba's investment, all of these big companies, these big private equity firms that are looking to invest in the market. So why are they doing this if they're not seeing results? Basically, what's the deal, right? So, and the deal is, it's all about the government's action and what the government is trying to accomplish. And this is the key this is one of the big keys for really understanding business in China and how to get better results, is by understanding what the government's trying to achieve and aligning what you want with what they're trying to do. this is a picture I use in pretty much any presentation I give. And normally I'm saying it's Xi Jinping kicking open the doors for the China sports industry or kicking open the doors for live performance industry. But in this case, I'm going to say he's kicking open the doors for the ticket industry. And in that case, I'm going to get into a little bit of detail why that is. But first, I want to just highlight three key things that I think are important to remember when you're talking with anything to do with the government in China. The first is that policy flows downhill, but the results flow uphill. And what that means is that the central government, the way the government works here, the central government sets out these things that they call guiding opinions, where basically they're laying out what they want to see happen. Xi Jinping said that he wants China to become a global cultural superpower and a global sports superpower. And then the central government puts out policy that they say, this is how we see that happening, gives it out to the local governments, and it's then up to the local governments, based on their local situations, to develop implementation plans to bring that to life. Based on then those results, they go back up the hill. If you do good, you get promoted. If you do not so good, well then, better luck next time. Or if you're consistently not doing good, well, then you're going to get demoted. So a lot of success comes from the results of the government, because they bring in the local governments because they need to draw the resources to create success for themselves. The next point is government versus industry. I like to say, when talking about government and industry in China versus the West, in the West, industry and the government, the relationship is generally the government works for industry, in that industry sets what they're trying to do, and the government it's then the government's responsibility to find ways to help them make that happen. Whereas in China, it works the exact opposite, where the government sets the policies, they set the direction, they set the goals, and then it's up for the industry to find the ways to get involved with what the government's trying to accomplish. And then the third point is aligning strategy to government policy. So in this way, like I said, the government sets the direction, and the best way to get involved is to see that direction, find a way to, you don't necessarily have to get right on board and become a cheerleader for the government, but instead develop a story about what you're trying to do that aligns with where the government's trying to take things. So looking specifically at, let's first look specifically at the sports industry. There's been, and especially since 2018, 2019, there's a ton of policy coming out from the central government trying to give direction on how to develop the market. Some very, very high level stuff, three of them that I point out here, but also getting down into the details on how to set up social sports, and how to set up sports in kindergartens and in elementary schools, and how to develop venues and all this kind of stuff. So, there's a lot of detail in there, and there's a lot of points that say this is where we want the market forces or the social forces to get involved. And those are the keys that you can then find to move into that. On the other side, on the arts side, it kind of takes it in a different direction. And that's, as you might know, China does these 5-year plans. Right now, we're working on the 13th 5-year plan. They're about to publish the 14th 5-year plan. Because of the way the culture industry works versus the sports industry, all of their planning came out in the last 13th 5-year plan, which was 2015. Hence why all that investment came into the market so fast for ticketing, because they came in and they said, okay, we're going to turn China into a cultural superpower. And we're going to start by making our industry, our domestic industry, very strong. And we need investment, we need development, we need to make best practices that we can then take out and compete with the UK and the US and all the rest of Europe to make sure that China is properly represented as a cultural force in the world. Xi Jinping laid this out very clearly. And then, as I said earlier, it's also a think nationally, build locally mindset, where the government has set out this 13th 5-year plan, in the 13th 5-year plan, what the goals are, and then moves to set it up as on a local level. All right, so I think with that, we can probably move into some questions.
Yes, certainly. Thank you very much, Greg. That's really interesting to find out more about this market, which many of us know so little about. And of course, anyone can ask questions of Greg via the Q&A panel in the top right. I think firstly, just to kick things off, obviously wondering what impacts the COVID pandemic has had on Chinese live events and ticketing. What it's already had and what it may well have in the coming months and years.
Right. So, I mean, I think everybody remembers how things were in China at the very beginning, where it was the whole world's attention was focused on China. It was a very dystopian world then here, where we had checkpoints every kilometer basically, where temperatures were getting checked and everything was shut down, and it just felt like the end of the world in a lot of ways. Very strict, very strong shutdown. We did that for about 2 months, and then in the springtime things started emerging. Summertime, stores started opening up, restaurants started opening up. Live events started up again in about August this year, where we started getting some smaller live events at the start of the month. And then by the end of the month, we were having our first music festivals, all focused mainly on outdoors. Anything indoors still had a lot of restrictions. Yeah. But then in October, it was basically the doors opened wide open. I think there's still some restrictions on the number of people inside of a room. But in the October holiday, the first week of October, we had the China Performing Arts Association said there was 70,000 live events across the country. So that's basically back to normal. Wow. And what it is, what I hope that everybody can take from this is when the time is right, people are going to come back to the events. It's almost, there was a revenge spending idea when the doors first started opening up in China, and I think that kind of translated into a revenge live events experience, that people wanted to get back out and experience live events again.
Yeah, just very very quickly, because we do only have a minute or so left. I was just wondering, are there opportunities for operators and suppliers from outside of China within China, do you believe?
Absolutely. Like I said, so within what's going on, there's a lot of interest for developing the industry, but they also recognize they don't know everything. There's a lot of answers that they don't know. So there's a lot of best practices they're looking for from the outside. There's a lot of steps you got to do to protect yourself before you come in, but the opportunities are definitely there because the market's just so big. What I would suggest is look outside of Shanghai, look outside of Beijing, find some other markets in the rest of the country. Yeah,
I think we're going to have to leave it there, unfortunately, Greg, because time has got away from us. But please do contact Greg, connect with him via the platform, because there's lots more to say about the Chinese market, and I'm sure lots of people want to find out more about China and the opportunities there. So thank you very much, Greg, and enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much.